For more than 2 decades, Toyota has provided customers in the medium-range Mondeo segment with a safe, conservative set of wheels. Not perhaps the most exciting choice, but the most sensible one. And Avensis stood for just that, and so does this improved third-generation version, better in all the ways that really, really matter. Now, Toyota has its own idea of what a medium-range Mondeo-sized model should be. It isn't shared by many motoring hacks, but it is appreciated by the business people who spend many miles in this car, the company's Avensis. Now, for these drivers, and the family buyers like them, cutting-edge handling and fancy design are all very well, but they'd cheerfully swap that final nth of cornering turn-in or that avant-garde dashboard for more practical virtues. Running costs that equal a lower benefit-in-kind tax rating and so put more in their pay packet every month. Technology that keeps them in communication, on the move and gets them home quicker. It was for these people that the third generation Toyota Avensis was originally created in 2008. They weren't quite satisfied by that car, but chances are they will be by this one, the much improved version, launched late in 2011. Now, it might not look much different from the original Mark III model, but that's because Toyota has sweated over the more important changes. And true enough, the 2-litre D4D diesel that most customers choose is substantially more efficient than before. While inside, the introduction of a Toyota touch-and-go multimedia and satellite navigation system enables you to do everything from Facebooking your friends in a traffic jam to checking out your destination on Google Maps. On the move, the car is quieter for those long motorway trips. And just so that you've something to say, when torque turns to top gear around the water cooler, Toyota has sharpened up the ride and handling package so that the car will handle better around the twisty stuff. Nothing too extreme, of course. Avensis folk wouldn't appreciate that. Just enough to meet the class standard so that there's nothing to distract from the sensible stuff that this car does so well. But will all that be enough in the face of fine competition from the Mondeos, Insignias and Passats of this world? Let's find out. Here's a car designed very much for the people who will drive it. People who have to cover long distances quickly and use the time while they do effectively. Little point then in the range providing a sporty model. Not to say that there isn't plenty of performance punch across the Avensis lineup. As far as engines are concerned, there is. The 124 brake horsepower 2-litre D4D diesel that most customers choose, that's the one I'm driving here, now has 310 newton meters of torque. That's 20% more pulling power than before. And it's one of the reasons why this car actually feels a lot quicker than the 9.7 second 0 to 60 sprint time might suggest. Top speed is 124 miles an hour. You hardly have to move the sweet shifting 6-speed manual gearbox to get almost instant overtaking punch in almost any gear. But if you do want a little more performance, you can tick the box for a 2.2-litre D4D diesel model with 148 brake horsepower, the chief virtue of which is that it also offers an automatic gearbox option. Now, petrol people are a little thin on the ground in the fleet-dominated Mondeo market, but those remaining have the option of a 145 brake horsepower 1.8-litre Valve-matic unit with drive either by 6-speed manual gearbox or a multi-drive S automatic with steering wheel mounted paddle shifters, all of which is much as before, as is the driving experience on offer, though those familiar with the original Mark III Avensis model will be the first to appreciate the changes that have been made. The suspension tweaks, for example, though I can't help thinking that these have actually made the ride a touch less settled on the porous surfaces. It's still great on major routes though, an environment in which you'll notice the considerable efforts Toyota has gone to enhance refinement. Every aspect of this car has been thought about and thought about again to see if it could function just a little more quietly. Toyota's chief engineer Takashi Yamamoto apparently drove over 3,000 miles across European roads to help tailor this Avensis for the particular challenges of the European market, and we can be pretty sure that the vast majority of that route was conducted on the highway. It's where this car feels most at home. Not that it can't handle twisty roads as well. A more rigid body shell, a thicker anti-roll bar, and those suspension changes combine to make this car feel more assured through the bends. Something that's further helped by more feelsome power steering and front seats that offer greater lateral support during cornering. As for town work, well, the steering gear ratio has been changed so that fewer turns are necessary lock to lock. And I was pleased to see that the electronic parking brake, not normally a feature I'm much of a fan of, has been fitted with a useful auto apply function so that it activates automatically if you forget to use it when the ignition is turned off. Neat. Now, this apparently is Toyota's latest design language, the so-called keen look, which is supposed to give a more dynamic feel to the company's product range. Now, in the case of this Avensis, though the car itself is 15 millimeters longer, the overall effect isn't much different from what went before, though park a revised model like this alongside the original Mark III design and the differences are clear. At the front, narrower headlamps with de rigueur daytime running lights flank a trapezoidal grille that's bigger and wider with deeper blades. It sits above a more sculpted bumper with this protruding centre section housing a large air intake intended to emphasise the car's wider stance. It all goes to give this model the more assertive look that it always deserved. Move past the restyled alloy wheels and you'll find that there's been a bumper redesign at the rear too, and restyled rear light clusters incorporating strips of red LEDs. A chrome strip above the licence plate hopes to add a further flash of quality. Nothing too dramatic then, but beautifully understated in a way that doesn't make the look of this car seem rehashed. And inside, well, there are plenty of trendier and smarter looking cabins in this sector, but subject any of them to a couple of 100,000 miles of hard work, and I doubt that many would stand the test of time better than this one. The team at the Burniston factory in Derbyshire have done their work well here. That said, Toyota has recognised the need to add a little extra showroom wow factor to the interior, so the appearance, touch and feel of the dashboard have all been improved, and the centre console here redesigned so that the switchgear is easier to locate and use. The air vents are smarter, and those parts that are touched most often, the door grips, the switchgear, the front console, all get soft touch, high quality detailing. Behind the rake and reach adjustable steering wheel, existing owners will note the cooler white backlighting, and they'll also appreciate the more supportive seats. But the real cabin highlight is the Toyota Touch and Go multimedia system with its 6.1 inch colour touchscreen. At the back, rear seat accommodation is respectable by the standards of the Mondeo class, and plusher models have nice MPV-like touches like these rear window blinds. Now, there are wider cabins in this sector, but one of the advantages of this one, if you do have to accommodate 3 adults across the back seat, is that the floor in front of the centre section is pretty much flat, so legroom is not restricted. Out back, there's a 509 litre boot with an underfloor compartment for smaller, more valuable items you want to keep out of sight, and the option of a ski hatch in the back seat so that you can poke through longer items. If you need more room than that, then you can push forward these split folding rear seats and free up a lot of extra luggage space. But if luggage room's really going to be an issue for you, you'll probably want to go for the Tourer Estate version, which has a 543 litre boot and 1,609 litres of total space with the rear seats pushed forward. As with most cars in the Mondeo segment, you'll be paying from just under £20,000 to just under £30,000 for this one. There's a £1,000 premium if, like 55% of buyers, you want to move from the saloon I have here to the Tourer Estate. And there's also a £1,000 premium to go from the entry-level 1.8 litre Valvematic petrol engine to the 2 litre D4D diesel that I have here. That's the variant that most customers choose. I wouldn't really bother finding another £1,000 on top of that for the much thirstier, much dirtier and not much faster 2.2 litre D4D diesel, unless you really want its automatic gearbox option. I would though budget an extra couple of thousand on top of your chosen variant for the much nicer TR trim level that includes most of the really nice features that make this car what it is. As for rivals, well, if your perception of Toyota is of a kind of premium brand, then you'll be rather pleased to find that this Avensis will save you a bit on all its most obvious competitors. List price wise, model for model, a Ford Mondeo will cost you around £500 more, a Vauxhall Insignia around £2,000 more. In fact, check out all the most obvious rivals to the 2 litre D4D diesel I have here, the variant that most customers buy. Say a Mazda 6 2.2D, a Peugeot 508 2 litre HDI, even a Kia Optima 1.7 CRDI, and you'll find that this Toyota undercuts them all. Only Hyundai's i40 1.7 CRDI 136 PS can claim to be any cheaper, and then it's not by much. Now, whichever Avensis saloon or Tourer Estate model you choose, the 1.8 litre Valvematic petrol or either of the D4D diesels, the 2 litre I have here or a 2.2 litre unit, you should find your car to be decently equipped. Bluetooth compatibility for your mobile phone, a leather covered steering wheel and daytime running lights have been added to a kit tally that already included air conditioning, an MP3 compatible audio system with steering wheel mounted controls, electrically adjustable and heated door mirrors, electric front windows and a multi-information display. There's an auto gearbox option if you go for the 1.8 litre petrol or the 2.2 litre diesel, and you can choose a huge panoramic glass roof if you opt for the Tourer Estate. Now, the vast majority of buyers opt for the mid-spec TR trim level that I have here, that amongst other things includes 17-inch alloy wheels, auto headlamps and wipers, front fog lights, an auto dimming rear view mirror and cruise control. And most notably, this feature here, the Toyota Touch and Go multimedia system with satellite navigation. And it's going to be this clever setup, more than anything I'd reckon, that will get people into this car. Via this colour touchscreen, you can control the audio system, use a reverse parking camera, and oversee Bluetooth connection to all kinds of external devices. Now, if one of those is a Bluetooth-enabled smartphone like this one, then you'll be able to use Google Local Search and use Google Maps, via which route destinations can be input remotely from either home or office. Using a dedicated Toyota customer portal, you'll also be able to access useful information on weather info, fuel prices, even the amount of parking spaces in the town that you're going to. And if you want this system to be even cleverer than that, well, it can be. If you upgrade to Touch and Go Plus guise, it's fitted as standard to the most expensive Avensis models. Now, with Touch and Go Plus, you also get voice recognition for a more sophisticated 3D mapping system that also has a traffic patterns database. Business folk will love the way that this system will enable them to Facebook, tweet and email on the move. Text too, with a text-to-speech function and a phone book search and call system. As for safety, well, there are 7 airbags, including a driver's knee airbag, to help justify this car's 5-star Euro NCAP safety rating, as well as all the usual electronic assistance for braking, traction and stability control. But that isn't quite enough these days in this class of car, which is why Toyota has equipped the priciest Avensis models with the kind of safety package that until quite recently was the preserve of high-end luxury cars. Now, it includes the PCS pre-crash safety system that uses a radar mounted at the top of the windscreen to scan the road ahead and alert the driver to a potential collision risk. If there is a collision risk and the driver slams on the anchors, then PCS will maximise their effectiveness. If the driver doesn't brake or can't, then PCS will start the car braking anyway to minimise the accident impact speed. All Avensis power plants use Toyota's Optimal Drive technology, a fuel-saving package of features that use low-friction, lightweight, advanced technology components to cut carbon dioxide emissions and boost power. But with this third generation Avensis lineup in improved form, most effort has been directed towards just one variant when it comes to reducing running costs. That's the 2-litre D4D diesel that I'm driving here, which was already Euro 5 compatible and featured a diesel particulate filter. The engine's lighter for a start, with a revised turbocharger and a lower friction bearing system and electric actuator. Now, the result of this modest sounding package of changes is actually anything but modest. Fuel consumption a full 17% better than before. So this car will return 62.8 miles to the gallon on the combined cycle. And CO2 emissions are improved dramatically too, by 14%, down from 139 grams per kilometre to a Volkswagen Passat Blue Motion rivaling 119 grams per kilometre of CO2. And bear in mind that the Volkswagen uses a much smaller, less powerful 1.6 litre diesel engine to achieve that. Here we've got a 2 litre unit. So if you're comparing like with like, 2 litre diesel for 2 litre diesel, then this Avensis looks very good indeed when it comes to CO2. After all, a Ford Mondeo 2 litre TDCi chugs out 139 grams per kilometre of CO2. A Volkswagen Passat 2 litre TDI isn't much better, 135 grams per kilometre of CO2. In other words, this Toyota is right at the top of its class in this respect. Opt for the pokier 2.2 litre D4D diesel and these returns take quite a hit. The 2.2 manages 52.3 miles to the gallon on the combined cycle and puts out 143 grams per kilometre of CO2. If you go for the 1.8 Valve-matic petrol model, you're looking at 43.5 miles to the gallon on the combined cycle and 152 grams per kilometre of CO2. All these figures are for the saloon model. They're marginally worse if you go for the Tourer Estate. Now, to help users get somewhere near to those kinds of quoted returns on an ordinary day-to-day basis and get the maximum range from the 60-litre fuel tank, there's everything from a gear change shift indicator on the dash to an eco-route option on the sat-nav that guides you towards the most economical driving route, as well as the fastest or most direct one. All of which should enable you to achieve an efficiency standard that will really impact your day-to-day running costs. The CO2 figure, for example, on this 2 litre D4D qualifies you for free road tax in the first year of ownership. And it considerably impacts the benefit in kind tax figure that you'll be paying, down from 20% to 13% in the benefit in kind ratings. And that means that a 40% UK taxpayer will be saving somewhere in the order of £600 in their annual tax bill. Now, this kind of showing has been of inestimable help in cementing this car's reputation as a cost-effective model to run. And that's the issue on which most battles are won and lost in the medium-range marketplace. What else? Insurance groupings range between 18 and 21, And depreciation is very good too, thanks to servicing costs that are very low. Respected industry analyst CAP reckon that after the usual 3 years and 36,000 miles, this car will be worth more than rivals from Ford, Peugeot and Vauxhall, holding on to as much as 40% of its original asking price. And there's a 5-year warranty, which puts the cover provided by some obvious competitors to shame. I'll cut straight to the chase here. The Avensis is well worth a fresh look. By improving efficiency and incorporating some seriously impressive technology on board, Toyota has forced it back into class contention. When you have a car that's efficient enough to put benefit in kind cash back in your pay packet and clever enough to enable you to email, text and tweet on the move, you have one that's going to endear itself to plenty of people, especially as it's British built. Could it be more exciting both to look at and to drive? Well, probably, but you can see why Toyota weren't keen to go too far and upset the legions of buyers attracted by the sensible charms of previous Avensis models. The brand knows that the medium-range market is closely fought and highly populated, with buying decisions often coming down to the smallest detail. And worryingly, for some of its rivals, this car appears to have got some of the details that really matter just about right.